Hello, we are from Group 5. We will present the information from our group assignment.
My name is Chapinhu. My metric number BB119110351. Today I'm going to talk about the Chapter 1 Introduction Background of Study. Online businesses has increased dramatically during this pandemic of COVID-19, but at the same time, internet businesses also finding it difficult to sell their items online, which we know that their products are some from the China, which China is the main source of the product. Because of this, Malaysia E-businesses are also experiencing product shortage because of the resources are unable to give them, which make the e-business are hard to meet the demand of consumer. But some of the e-business able to survive and success on their performance, which we can define it by using the coefficient between intercompany dependency (ICD) and e-businesses. In this situation, we can see that some of the e-businesses are able to improve their performance by two perspectives, which financial and non-financial. Other than that, the interfirm dependency are also can improve their businesses performance by using courier service, which during this pandemic, courier service is critical component to e-business, which when the courier service is bad, then it will affect the e-business performance, especially when during this pandemic everyone are using online purchasing and expect more to the e-business, so this will give difficulty towards the e-business performance during this pandemic. We can see that during COVID-19 in 2020, the value of e-commerce is at 30.2% and it will continue rise to 5.9% in 2021, which we can see that the user of e-commerce are quite high during this time. This can help to improve the e-business performance, but also it will give a hard time to the e-business as well, which when the user of e-commerce is high, then the demand towards e-business also high. This will give them a hard time to fulfill their needs, and when the e-business performance are bad, then the consumer will give them a bad review and cause them into trouble. We can see that this thing happened because of pandemic COVID-19, which caused the demand of e-commerce are boost higher.
My name is Husna binti Razaidi. I'm going to present a problem statement. Okay, since pandemic COVID-19 happened, the e-business is being driven into significant limitation due to the pressure from the pandemic of COVID-19. The e-business is identified as a dependent variable since the rise or the downfall in the demand of the particular online platform is significantly dependent on the widespread of COVID-19 and also the customer behavior toward these global issues. For these particular reasons, the customer shifted towards the e-business approach. In our research of study, we decided to make a research on the e-business performance based on the customer behavior and e-marketing. The relationship between e-business and customer behavior is that for a specific reason, customer will depend on e-business platform in order to fulfill their needs. The problem that we want to know whether the customer behavior and also e-marketing really give an impact or not toward e-business performance, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Hi, my name is Arini and I will continue on the research objectives. The main research objective of our study is to determine the implication of COVID-19 towards e-business performance in Malaysia. There are two specific research objectives of our study, which are to investigate the influence of e-marketing towards e-business performance in Malaysia during COVID-19 and to investigate the influence of consumer behavior towards e-business performance in Malaysia during COVID-19.
My name is Farhana binti Muhammad Rosli. I will continue the scope of study. The aim of this study to determine the impact of coronavirus COVID-19 on e-business in Malaysia. The study used quantitative research method to collect data, relate the study from 20 respondents. The research is used 5-point Likert scala to construct the survey questionnaire. The conceptual framework of the study showed that e-business is influenced by coronavirus on e-marketing and consumer behavior. This study is statistical analysis software, SPPS. It is enabling to gather the responses in a sequential manner by providing several framework of question of this study. The research will rely on primary data. The primary data will be used to determine the relationship between dependent variable and independent variable.
My name is Sofyan Misida. In this presentation, I am going to talk about significance of study. Customer would take required measure and one more inclined in reaction to the pandemic significant impact. As a result, the behavior of Malaysian customer has a significant impact on the demand for e-commerce business activities. To large extent, commerce business activity, customer purchasing habits would be influenced by the lockouts in the country, because there would be a lack of product and service in the various outlets and stores. Respondent are assisting the researcher in the gathering data on the impact of the coronavirus on the Malaysia e-commerce business. The data collection process is carried out with the assistance of survey question distributed by the researcher. The researcher survey question is assisting the researcher in the gathering appropriate information on the impact established on the e-business present in Malaysia. The SPSS analysis process is used to analyze the data collected by researcher during the survey process. The SPSS analysis process enables the researcher to collect the necessary data. The data analysis performed above demonstrate that coronavirus has a negative impact on Malaysia business COVID-19. The established negative impact is influencing sales as well customer purchasing behavior. The impact of the coronavirus on Malaysia online business is discussed in this research paper. Analysts have revealed that this pandemic disease has severely hampered online business.
Literature review. In the introduction of literature review, we can define it as a comprehensive study and interpretation of literature that address a specific topics, which our dependent variables is e-business's performance, while our independent variables are e-marketing and consumer behavior. Through this chapter, we will show you how the theoretical and empirical review works, which our theoretical review will show on how the independent variable will influence the dependent variable, and for our empirical review we show the variable in the past study by explain the independent variable and its relationship between others in the different article.
Okay, next, I will present about theoretical review in chapter 2. Okay, firstly, customer behavior. The behavior of the customer is considered as an independent variable. The important reason behind its independence is that the way the population will act in response to the e-business performance. E-business performance act as the dependent variable since e-business performance are measured and depend on both of the e-marketing and also customer behavior. Okay, next, e-marketing allow the e-business to allocate the resources for the better decision making and also attract the attention of the customer. In this research, our group used marginal utility theory, where the greater the good consumed, then the higher the marginal total utility customer will consume the good. As an example, if the e-marketing is good, it will affect the customer behavior. Good e-marketing will increase customer satisfaction. When the customer utility marginal is at a high level, then the performance of e-business will have a positive impact.
Next is the empirical review. Firstly, the e-marketing on e-business performance. Brozowska and Biobel 2015 stated that when developing an e-business strategy, it is vital to consider whether the brand will only be an online entity operating or an online representation of a brand that functions as a conventional brand in the market, which then they concluded that e-business will undoubtedly be the most effective strategies for e-business. He also added that another e-business tool, which is social media marketing, has gained a lot of traction recently. According to Sabah 2004, electronic marketing has evolved because of technological advancement and the advent of e-business concepts. He also asserted that e-marketing is a relatively new and rapidly growing industry. Lastly, El Gohari and A 2013 believe that electronic marketing adoption gives a positive impact towards business performance. It influences the pre-sales activities, after-sales activities, marketing performance, and marketing effectiveness of business.
The second empirical review, consumer behavior on e-business performance. According to Huadi 2018, that the consumer profit greatly from information sharing and transfer via internet in cross-border e-business, and it also has significant impact on consumer behavior when making online product purchases. According to Fabrik K 2016, that he has become virtuous circle has digital technology such as e-business simulate profit and fulfill customer expectation and demand, which leads to big economic growth. According to Wu SI 2006, believe that e-business must understand consumer characteristics and need to be successful. Lastly, according to Maliki S and Rianto S 2020, that in their study research that consumer behavior significantly impact SME performance during the pandemic of COVID-19. The result of their study show the consumer behavior positively affect the performance of the business, which is demonstrated between the two variables having a very high relationship.
Greetings to Dr. Janice. My name is Timothy Sahni. Now I will present about our chapter 2 regarding to our research proposal topic. In this chapter, researchers examine e-business and marginal utility theory in the theoretical review, while in the empirical review, researchers explore how e-marketing and consumer behavior impact on e-business performance. We identified how the emergence of coronavirus impacts to e-business, particularly its performance. It is because e-business performance is evaluated and is reliant on both e-marketing and consumer behavior. Furthermore, marginal utility theory was applied in this paper. According to Andrew 2011, marginal utility is the additional satisfaction a customer obtains by acquiring one more unit of an item or service. The idea of marginal utility is essential in understanding how consumers make their decisions to maximize their limited budget. As a result, in this study, researchers utilize marginal utility as a key theoretical behind the suggested research model to obtain a better insight of the significance of consumer behavior interaction in e-business.
In this chapter of methodology, we will show that there are several researchers been found in this chapter, which introduction, research, design, conceptual framework, definition, variables, research hypothesis, estimation methods, and summary. All of this research in methodology chapter, it helps us to gather the information and achieve our research objective.
In this chapter 3, I will present about the research design, where the research in this study will be using the non-probability sampling design, where this type of design involves non-random selection based on convenience or certain criteria, which make us easy to collect the data. This study use questionnaire to collect the data, since it is primary data. The item in the questionnaire shows in the data which consists of two parts that are Part A and also Part B. Part A contains demographic segmentation such as age, gender, state, and also place. Then Part B related to the independent variable which are customer behavior and also e-marketing, and dependent variable that is e-business performance. This survey questionnaire helped to gain the appropriate information. And then some example of the question in the survey. The first one is, will the coronavirus have an impact on e-business? The second question, consumer options for where to shop are limited, which an impact on their behavior. For both question 1 and 2 show that majority from the 20 respondents choose strongly agree. And then from the answer, we did a hypothesis that, hypothesis 1, coronavirus have a negative impact toward e-business. And then hypothesis 2, coronavirus is impacting the buying behavior of the customer because of unlimited e-shop.
For the part of conceptual framework, we found out that there is one dependent variables and two independent variables, which e-performance for the dependent variables and e-marketing and consumer behavior for independent variables, which you can see the diagram of the part of e-marketing. There is pre-sales activity, export and social media, while consumer behavior we got personalization, SME performance, and information shared and transferred via internet. All of these small variables in our independent variables will be explained more from my group members. These conceptual frameworks show us the between of the relationship two variables which e-marketing and consumer behavior towards the e-business performance during this pandemic COVID-19 in Malaysia. The objective of this framework is to integrating two components of independent variables to achieve a high quality performance of e-business during this pandemic COVID-19.
There are four definition variables of our study. The first one is e-business performance. E-business performance can be referred as the utilization of information and communication technologies, ICT, in support of all the activities of business. The second one is COVID-19. Coronavirus is a disease which related to RNA virus that has a characteristic of crown-like look under an electron microscope because of the presence of glycoprotein spikes on its envelope. Next is e-marketing. Electronic marketing can be defined as the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer using internet technology as support. Lastly, consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is referred as a psychological part of an individual which makes the difference in purchasing any goods and services.
Next, researcher hypothesis. The study consists of two research hypotheses such as following. In hypothesis 1, the null is e-marketing has not relationship with towards performance in Malaysia during COVID-19. The alternative is e-marketing has relationship with towards performance in Malaysia during COVID-19. In hypothesis 2, the null is consumer behavior has not relationship with towards performance in Malaysia during COVID-19, and the alternative is consumer behavior has not relationship with towards performance in Malaysia during COVID-19.
For estimate method, we use the material and method to investigate the effect of coronavirus COVID-19 on e-business in Malaysia, include sampling design and research procedure. First, descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis is important part to conducting the statistical analysis. It could illustrate the idea to distribute the data, detect the online and identify any relationship between the variables. In other words, it helps to provide piece of basic information about the variables in the data set and to show the potential relationship among the variables. Descriptive analysis we use to measure central tendency, which include mean, median, mood, standard deviation, variance, kurtosis, and squareness. Second, regression analysis. Regression analysis is a set of statistical methods used to estimate the relationship between dependent variable and one or more independent variable. At this slide, I show the model for regression for our study, which is y equal beta 0 plus beta 1 plus beta 2 plus e, whereas y represent dependent variable, beta 0 represent intercept, beta 1 and beta 2 represent independent variable, which is e-marketing and consumer behavior, and E represent error term.
Summary of Chapter 3 Methodology. In this chapter, we will discuss about research design, conceptual framework, definition of variables, research hypothesis, and estimation methods. In research design, we are using primary data for our research. For the conceptual framework, we have shown the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable that we use in this research. It gives better understanding on how both of independent variable and dependent variable that we choose are related each other. Moreover, for the definition variable, we have explained to the variables that we choose in our research. For instance, e-business performance, e-marketing, and consumer behavior. We also state out the null and alternative hypothesis for our research hypothesis. Null hypothesis show a negative relationship and not significant between independent and dependent variable, while alternative hypothesis. Next, for the statistic model specification, we are using descriptive analysis and regression analysis. Descriptive analysis is being to be designed question. This question will be given to respondent where it help us to collect data, while regression analysis is being used to estimate variables. Last but not least, estimation methods that being used in our research are panel data, statistical analysis software, and time series data. That's all. Thank you.